Welcome to It's the Car Business, a YouTube and podcast show that inspires car dealers and their management staff to make positive changes in their dealerships. I'm your host, David Allen, best-selling author of the $100 Million Playbook and CEO of Mail-Rite International. Today's guest is Jerry Petrrotto. Jerry is an accomplished senior executive and entrepreneur with more than 20 years of success in the automotive industry. Throughout his executive career, Jerry has held leadership positions at automotive organizations, which include the Regal Automotive Group, Black Book Online, Dealer On, and is currently at Venture Automotive. Jerry's forte is being able to drive growth and improve profitability through the establishment of innovative and effective digital marketing strategies. Jerry's national network of clients depend on his expertise when it comes to SEO and PPC for their dealerships. Welcome to the show, Jerry. Jerry, you there?
Thank you, David. Glad to be here.
Okay.
I'm here. Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right. So before we get started, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to switch the thing over to you, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions first, but I'm going to go ahead. Can you grab the screen? All right. So one of the first things that I want to get, I think, help clear up, because there's some confusion with it from them changing terms on us, is what is the difference between pay-per-click, paid search, and SEM?
Well, I get that question a lot, and it is really confusing, and I can understand it. They actually all refer to the same thing. They all refer to Google ads, that the top three that appear on the page when you put in a search term. When the internet really came into being back in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was called SEM, which was stood for search engine marketing. And then Google migrated it over for many years, PPC, which was pay-per-click. And then Google migrated again to paid search. So because they feel that it's more than pay-per-click, and we agree with that, by the way. So paid search, PPC, SEM, it's all the same.
Okay. So what is the most common right now? PPC, probably, people know, or paid search?
Yeah, the people doing the PPC are calling it paid search. The industry is still referring to it as PPC. You get an SEM every once in a while.
Okay. My first question is, what is the biggest red flag when it comes to paid search, PPC, and display ads that dealers should be concerned about?
Yeah, well, that's an easy one, and I really want people to take this to heart. The biggest red flag that you can have is if a provider forces you to pay by paper check. In today's world, there's no reason on the planet why you as a dealer should not be using your corporate credit card to pay Google directly, to pay Bing directly, to pay Facebook directly. Let's face it, it's your money. You should be getting the points, not somebody else. Ultimately, Google has to have a credit card on file. And if it's not yours, it will be someone else's. And the only way that you can be certain that 100% of your ad dollars are being spent on ads is if the charges are direct to your credit card. We're in business 8 years now, and when we open the doors, I want it to be the most transparent digital agency in the industry. And you'll see in a little while, I'll have some opportunity to talk about some things we do. But having your credit card on file is just safe and good business. And it should not, if the company is a reputable company in the space, they will have no problem accepting that at all.
So in other words, their fee is separate from what you're talking about.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, is there another big red flag in the paid search?
Yes, there is actually. And before we leave that topic, David, I just want to show you this quick slide right here. This is
Okay.
actually the billing component within Google. So I wanted to show everybody that, this is how Google bills. Google bills in $500 increments for ease. They don't, it's very simple. And you can see the ending balance was $247.70. So there's
Okay.
no $500. When that crosses $500 and a penny, Google will bill the client $500. But this is the level of detail that I know the accounting office in the dealership, they love this because it's date stamped down to the hundredth of a second. The exact date is there, the exact amount is there, and the back office likes that because they can reconcile the statements really easy.
Nice. Is there another red flag that you find that dealers should know about for paid search?
Yeah, and it falls under the heading of transparency. So I put this slide up, and I know it's an eye chart, so don't even try to read it because my next slide I've taken the salient points from this slide and made it smaller and is much more it's much more easily read.
Okay.
But I put this up just to talk to a couple of points. What you're looking at is what we on the side of the business who's doing paid search, and by the way, every other paid search provider on the Google network is looking at the same thing. So this is an account I've taken to a Toyota store. I've blacked out who it is or whited out who it is here. And this basically shows in this account all the campaigns that are running. It basically shows, how many store visits you got, how many dollars were spent, and a whole bunch of other information I'll go through in just a minute. But this is what a dealer really needs to see in order to ask the right questions of his provider. For example, I sit in on a lot of these other calls, a lot of these calls with other providers when we're trying to get business, and I'll actually sit on the call and I'll ask questions on their behalf. But I want to know as a dealer, okay, I know how many clicks you got me. That's great. But what's more important than clicks is what was the bounce rate? You can get me all the clicks in the world, but if I've got a 90% bounce rate, I'm paying $3 a click. You're only looking at one page. Ooh, that doesn't make me feel too good. Or how about this? Let
me ask you this. Let me interrupt you for 1 second, Jerry.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
that our viewers understand this, because not everybody does. Explain to them what a bounce rate is and what it means.
Yeah. So Google defines a bounce rate as when someone clicks to a page on the site, it could be any page, when they go to land on a page on the site, and they do not go to another page. So they go to a page, they spend however much time they're going to spend, and then they leave and exit the site. That would get a check in the bounce rate. That click bounced, and it bounced because only it went to one page and only one page and then left. Now, that person could have spent 5 seconds on that page or 5 hours on that page. It's still going to bounce. It's just a measurement of the customer gets to a page, does whatever they're doing on that page, and then exits the site. That's what the definition of a bounce is.
Okay. Thanks. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think that was important people understand.
No, please. Absolutely. And please feel free to, because I tend to talk a little fast. So the other thing you want to know, and it's equally or probably more important than the bounce rate, is how much time on site are they spending? Or that's a Google term, time on site. How long is the customer spending on the site? Well, if it's 5, 10, 20 seconds, they might have clicked on something they didn't want, and that would be an indication of something not very good happening. If they're not spending time on the site, then there's a problem either with the message or what have you. So I always like to share that. And then of course, what's the percentage of new customers coming to the site? I've looked at a lot of vendor reports, and I won't single anyone out, but I don't normally see things like that in there. I see, impressions, clicks, click-through rates, cost per click, but I don't see my raw cost. I don't see my actual spend, and I certainly don't see a bounce rate or time on site. Let me, David, just move over to this. As I mentioned, I know that was very difficult to read. So what I'd like everybody to take away from this is, if you want to take a screenshot of this, please feel free to. If you want a copy of this deck, let David know, and we'll get you one. But at a very minimum, you want access into the Google Master Client Center, the MCC. Everyone operates, anybody on the Google network, me, everybody else that's doing paid search, doing display, has access to an MCC. You are in one of those providers' MCC as a separate account, and you need to pound on the table and get access to that account. We let our customers go in 24/7, 365 unchaperoned. We do make it read-only access, only because we don't want someone to accidentally click on something and increase a budget, and you could spend wild amounts of money if you're not really careful. But we have absolutely no concern about our dealers going in looking over our shoulder. There's nothing they can break. There's nothing bad that happens. Now, I can't do it here because I would have to be working in my account live. Anybody who wants a demonstration, I'd be happy to show you. But it's as easy and I showed David this, it's about easy 3 or 4 clicks that I can take this out of the cost line. I can take the cost line out of this column. In fact, I can take whatever I want out of these headers.